السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله
الحمد لله نحمده ونستعين به ونستغفره ونتوب إليه وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون. عباد الله أوصيكم وإياي بتقوى الله أوصيكم وإياي بتقوى الله أوصيكم وإياي بتقوى الله. واذكروا نعمة الله عليكم إذ كنتم أعداء فألف بين قلوبكم فأصبحتم بنعمته إخوانا. الحمد لله على نعمة الإسلام، الحمد لله على نعمة الإيمان، الحمد لله على نعمة الإحسان، الحمد لله على نعمه كلها ظاهرها وباطنها. الحمد لله على نعمة حبيبنا وسيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين. الحمد لله على نعمة القرآن، الحمد لله على نعمة يوم الجمعة فخصه الله بهذه الأمة يتلاقى المؤمنون ويتلاقى المسلمون ويتبادلون السلام. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أما بعد. In the past few days, there's a number of stories that are percolating on news across the globe about how Muslims are so abusive of animals. You know, this is the production of Islamophobic, discourse, that every day there's a new area where Muslims are not human, they're subhuman. They don't belong to the category that really is seen to be part of, quote, the civilized world. Now, there are Muslims who are abusive of animals, just like many other individuals across the world. We look at them as individuals who are abusive of animals. We don't look at their religious identity as a way of trying to understand what they did. And we have in our country here many individuals that on a daily basis are either entangled in abuse of animals, whether they are running a shelter or sometimes around houses or neighborhoods. We all individual engage in all types of structural abuse of animals, where you can actually bid on some type of animal abuse industry. So in here we could say first that animal abuse is a universal phenomenon. No religious group, ethnic group, racial group has a hold on not engaging in animal abuse. And all collectively is wrong. Right? So just from the onset, any abuse of animals is wrong regardless of who engages in it. Now for us, our tradition actually gives us a way to understand how we treat the animals. Actually, animals have rights in Islam. To begin with, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in His revelation, to give us the status of animals, named chapters of the last revelation with animals' names. So all of us understand the chapter of Al-Baqarah, the cow or the calf. We have a chapter of An-Namal, the ant, or the ants, the plural. And we know in the chapter Sulaiman alayhi salam is actually communicating with the ants. And so much so that Sulaiman is directed to move his army so they would not step on ants. And that is seen as a wisdom for us, that even an ant that we usually swipe it with our hand if it comes, that Sulaiman alayhi salam, as a prophet of our tradition in the Qur'an, is communicating to take attention to the ants. Al-Ankabut, the chapter of Al-Ankabut, the chapter of the spider. The chapter of Al-Nahl, the bees. And we know the calamity that bees these days have based on all kinds of misuse and abuse and the industrialization of bees in our current period, where they are no longer having the natural way to provide the ability to move from one field to the other. They actually house it in these industrial hangars, and then they take them to different places during the season for growth of vegetation and flowering and so on. So even in our contemporary period, we have an abuse in relation to the animals. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala named a number of chapters in the Quran by animal names, and that's a sign of respect and veneration, or placing the animals at such high place in our tradition. So that's one part of it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the chapter of Al-An'am, Al-An'am are all those that could be constituted as ni'mah, but also those animals that we use for our livelihood. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالْأَنْعَامَ خَلَقَهَا لَكُمْ فِيهَا دِفْءٌ. That the an'am, the things that we use, and here the reference to the animal, whether it's a camel, horse, cows, sheep, and goats, he says, for it there is different, there is warmth for you. وَمَنَافِعَ وَمِنْهَا تَأْكُلُونَ وَمَنَافِعُ وَمِنْهَا تَأْكُلُونَ. And there in it for you is benefit, and from it you eat. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing for us. وَلَكُمْ فِيهَا جَمَالٌ. And in these an'am, in these animals for you, there is beauty. The Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing the animal for us, and here in it there is beauty. And you could, many of us, if you get up in the morning and see a few birds outside the window, your face completely is transformed. Right? The listening of the chirping of the birds in the morning is an awakening that made their day. Problem for us, as we grow older, we became jaded that the cat's movement no longer captivate us. And some of us who got used to video games, we get captivated with something shooting around, like Call of Duty, and we don't actually pay so much attention to the beauty that is captivated by the cat moving around. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says there's beauty in the cat, in the animal form. حين تريحون وحين تسرحون. There's beauty for it when you actually dismount to rest and when you go around in the world. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us these examples. Then He continues about the animal and says, تحمل أثقالكم. That it carries your weights or carries your thaqil here is in reference to your merchandise, the things that you want to carry on these animals. إلى بلد لم تكونوا بالغين. It carries your weights and things that you carry to places where you are not going to reach it except with mashaqqa, except with heavy burden. So the animals actually are the ones that do this for us. إِنَّ رَبَّكُمْ لَرَءُوفٌ رَحِيمٌ. That Allah is actually most merciful and gentle with you. So from the foundation of how Muslims, from the Quranic text, we are actually given a broader understanding of animals. In another verse later on, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-An'am goes even beyond this basic description. وَمَا مِن دَابَّةٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَلَا طَائِرٍ يَطِيرُ بِجَنَاحَيْهِ. There is not a dabba, there is nothing that traverses on this earth or a bird that flies in the heavens except it's an ummah. Except it's an ummah. إِلَّا أُمَمٌ أَمْثَالَكُمْ. That's it. Almost a revolutionary concept 1400 years ago that the Quran is saying there is nothing on earth that moves and nothing in the heavens or in the skies that flies, birds and anything, except that it's a nation like unto you. Meaning every animal group is a nation. And now science actually understands that. Not only that these animal groups, these different types of birds, they communicate, they have their own structure, they have everything with relations to animals that science today is describing to us. The Quran is actually expressing in a very, very short verse in relation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then He says, مَا فَرَّقْنَا فِي الْكِتَابِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. We have not left anything except that we have addressed it in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we need to ground ourselves that attending to animals, taking care of animals across the board is part of the Islamic tradition. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has elevated their status as actually Allah called them ummah. Allah also described what we do in relation to animals to benefit from them, including eating and so on. Now let's say what the Prophet ﷺ said in relation to individuals who did something to the animals. In one case, it caused them to enter paradise, and in another case, it caused them to enter into hellfire. The Prophet ﷺ said the following. He said, بينما رجل يمشي فاشتد عليه العطش. That there was a man walking and thirst has become so intense upon him. فنزل بئرا فشرب منها. He went to a water well and drank from it. ثم خرج فإذا هو بكلب يلهث. And he went out of the water well, and in front of him there is a dog that is tired and exhausted, that's almost eating the dirt out of his thirst. So what this man did is he took his foot, his shoe, went down to the meaning Allah forgave him all of sins just for attending to this dog who was in a state of thirst. In another hadith, that is also, we find it replicated and mentioned by other traditions. So you find it in the Jewish tradition, you find it in the Christian tradition. A woman who is a prostitute, and the Prophet ﷺ, بينما كلب يطيف بركة, meaning there, كان يقتله العطش, that thirst was about to kill him. إذا رأته بغي من بغايا بني إسرائيل, that a baghi is a prostitute from the prostitutes of Bani Israel. And we know fornication and adultery is one of the kaba'ir, right? It's one of the enormities. So she drank, but she looked and saw the dog in a state of thirst and about to be almost exhausted, water is lost. She goes down, gets him water with her own foot, with her own shoe, and she gives the dog water to drink. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala entered her into paradise for that one action. Once again, this is a prostitute, and many of us would just turn all the way the other because you don't know where the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could be exhibited and where the mercy of Allah could be granted. So I'm here because of only treating the animal in such a way that she enters into paradise. So this is the tradition that we actually look at in relation to how Muslims have to relate relative to the animal, because that's an example from our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam actually ordered us to actually not abuse the animal in a number of ways. One is not to allow the animals to go hungry. Not to allow the animals to go hungry. The Prophet ﷺ, he passed by an animal. In this case, it was a camel that he passed by, and he said that his back was about to touch his stomach. It's an indication that he was completely not given the right sustenance and the right food by his owner. And the Prophet ﷺ said who this animal belongs to. And after finding out, he says, fear Allah in your animals. Fear Allah in your animals. Meaning, feed them and don't let them go hungry while they're attending and carrying your needs. So the Prophet ﷺ said, ride it correctly and attend to it correctly. And we know in the time of Umar that he apportioned a particular weight for the animal, that if you violated the right of the animal. There are particular ways that you can't move the animal or so, which would be comparable today to having trucks that have a particular weight on the freeway. That was something that Umar constituted in relation to the animal at the time. Right? Rules and regulations. The Prophet ﷺ also prohibited having what's called gully, meaning having a sign burned into the animal as a way to indicate your ownership. And he says, Allah curses the one that burns the animal to put their stamp on it. And we know that's a common practice in relation to animal husbandry, is that they have their rods that have a particular stamp, and you burn the side of the animal to show that this animal belongs to you. The Prophet ﷺ actually meaning he forbade using the weapon to burn something into the animal as indication of a sign. Also, the Prophet ﷺ in another hadith, it says that he was passing by in Medina, and he witnessed and saw a camel in an encounter or an enclosure. So he entered into that enclosure. The camel saw the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet said that the camel had tears in his eyes. That the camel had tears in his eyes. The for this camel. So the Prophet ﷺ asked for the owner to alleviate the burden and not to exhaust the camel. So in this sense that the Prophet ﷺ said that exhausting your camel, exhausting the animal in conducting his work is not part of the tradition. Another point, the Prophet ﷺ prohibited people taking animals as a seating place. He passed upon men who were just hanging out on top of animals, meaning either camels, horses, donkeys, and just sitting, taking them as karasi, taking them as chairs. He said that don't take the animals as your chairs, they're not for this purpose. And in essence, their purpose is to be utilized for a particular purpose, and that purpose has to be something that within the realm of what the animal can provide. In another hadith of Prophet ﷺ, this is something very important, prohibited from taking animals as a way of having fun. Having fun meaning to try to go animal hunting for no other purpose as sport. So there is no such thing as a sport where you're actually killing the animals and you have no purpose to eat. And we know that people go out hunting for no other purpose than just to show that they have skill in shooting something. They don't eat the stuff, they don't use it, and therefore abusing animal as a means of sport is not part of our tradition. The Prophet ﷺ and the time of Abdullah bin Umar passed upon some kids who had set up a bird and they were using bow and arrow to try to see who could hit it. Even though they paid the owner of the bird the price and they were all competing. And Abdullah bin Umar actually said that the Prophet ﷺ cursed the one that takes animals as a toy for their pleasure. Because the animal feels the suffering that they actually are going through. And as such, there has to be an understanding. We know that we have transformed animals into all kinds of sports. One of the most horrific is bullfighting. That's not fighting. The animal has no chance. The animal has no chance. That's not fighting. That's just like the maximum, the highest form of an idiocy relative to treating the animal. And you fill stadium completely just witnessing the bull being slaughtered as entertainment, and they bring the what do you call it?
Matador.
Huh?
Matador.
The matador, but they bring the funny figure to try to entertain people. The clown in the stadium, and you wonder who's the clown? Is it the animal or the clown or the people who are witnessing the slaughter of the animal? Because witnessing wrong and consenting to it as if you're committing the wrong yourself. And you know you travel to these places and they want to give you, oh, you need to go and witness this. Witnessing what? Right? I have no interest in witnessing an animal being tortured for almost a whole period, one after the other, and you're sitting there and people are clapping. What are you clapping on? What is it that you're driving from seeing an animal tortured? And so we have to not only challenge those who are Islamophobic, that now is saying about all kinds of statements relative to Muslims abusing animals, and there are Muslims who abuse animals, but we also need to challenge abuse of animal period. Not because we are defending ourselves against others, not because that's our principle. Because it's not today is the most end thing to go and speak about animal rights. No, that's our principle, that's our tradition. And we believe that all animals are in state of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're doing tasbih to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't comprehend how, but that's the statement that they are in state of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه به ونستغفره ونتوب إليه وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون. I will end with the following, that there are a number of hadiths in our tradition that speaks specifically in relation to the dog. So the dog has a particular presence in the hadith literature. But also those readings of those hadith is very problematic. The Prophet ﷺ did not hate dogs. He did not say anything that the dog is not an animal to be treated well. He made certain references, in particular the one that if the dog eats from your plate, to wash the plate, not the animal. To wash the plate 7 times, and one of them said it's actually just to show, to purify possibly from something that might have come from the animal into the plate, meaning the dog. It did not say that the dog itself is not an animal that is in a state of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or the hadith that when the dog sees Iblis or Shaitan that it begins to bark. If his barking is not the problem, Iblis is the problem. So don't go around and take the dog and thinking that the dog is Iblis. No, it's Iblis is Iblis. The dog has been given the ability to witness and see Iblis. And we say, subhanAllah, but it's not the dog that is the problem. In other schools of thought, the dog is pure. What you is only if he eats from a plate that you eat from, that you wash the plate, so you just protect yourself from just the dua from the salah of the dog. You can touch the dog. I'm not saying in all this tradition. In some schools, that's what you do. Also, the Prophet ﷺ prohibited taking animals as qunya. Qunya is a term like you are as an ornament. It's like what is it? Pure skeleton just carries a dog there as an ornament. What is it that you're doing with a dog that you have no use for? And therefore, the Prophet ﷺ prohibited making ornamentation out of the animal to change their purpose. That's all what he said. He didn't say that animals should not have a purpose, but have a purpose for the animal. And broadly speaking, today, every day we put animals to sleep. What does putting to sleep? You create an industry around producing animals, in particular dogs, and then you put them to sleep every day. Putting to sleep meaning you kill animals in an industrialized way because they have no use. So actually our tradition from the Prophet was a very rational tradition. If you have a purpose for a dog, you have a dog. If you have a purpose for a donkey, you have a donkey. If you have a purpose for a camel, you have a camel. But if you act like a camel, then the problem is you, not with the camel. The problem today is we have people that are acting like animals and not acting like humans. The problem is not with the animals, the problem with the humans. And we need to understand our tradition is approached from an ethical, rational perspective, so we don't create problems that we don't have the solution and we end up putting animals to sleep. That's not our tradition. We have many of our traditions that really look after the animals. We have one of the first animal shelter in recorded history, the one that Muslims set up in Damascus. They have an animal shelter to actually for the animals. They had a whole lot to provide milk for cats in Damascus. At a time where people would not even recognize anything relative to them. They also had a lot where retired animals who as reserved were taken into what we call today animal parks. So an old cattle, an old horse, an old donkey would actually have a lot for the animal. That's our tradition. You all looked at the sources. The problem with people today is that they take a statement and all of a sudden Muslims do this. And they need to challenge it by knowing our tradition and also really the ethical people in how we treat not only the animals but our traditional problem. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد اللهم إني داعٍ منهم اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا واصرف عنا بالخير شر ما قضيت فإنك تقضي بالخير ولا يقضى عليك وإنه لا يذل من واليت تبارك ربنا وتعاليت الإسلام ردا جميلا. ربنا ردنا إلى الإسلام ردا جميلا. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه، وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه يا رب العالمين. اللهم ارحم المسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات يا رب العالمين. اللهم ارحم المسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات يا رب العالمين. اللهم ارحم المسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات يا رب العالمين. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. وأقم الصلاة إن الصلاة تنهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح. قامت الصلاة قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
حقا لا إله إلا الله. استقيموا واعتدلوا.